brig goes sterling, crashing on Tundrum. The brig was small for turning, money cut him down on the brig goes sterling. All the Englishmen ran until each other named to turn about.
Sorry, again?
I was supposed to be last one.
Hi folks,
It was last year.
we're gathered here, we're going to do a walk round the historical places in Glasgow city centre. Most people in Scotland do not know their history. History is all around us. There are many historical, significant places even in the city centre in Glasgow.
There's something going on. I can see.
I'm standing here at the statue of Sir Walter Scott. This statue was erected in 1837. Every one of these statues were put in this square at different times. This one to Sir Walter Scott was erected in 1837. Now, Sir Walter Scott is known for saying, it's there, is there a man with soul so dead, who never to himself has said, this is my own, my native land. It's time that we stood up for Scotland and stopped listening to the British propaganda. I'm going to take you back now to 1919. It was just after the war. Many soldiers come back to find they couldn't find work. For those that were in work, there was long hours, low pay. It got to the stage that in January of 1919, there were 60,000 Scots at George Square, all over there. What did they decide in Westminster? They sent up 10,000 troops, none of them Scottish. They sent up 10,000 troops with machine guns. They sent in tanks. This was in 1919. They crushed the uprising. 60,000 Scots were here, standing up for Scotland in 1919. They crushed that with force. Never forget these men who stood up for Scotland in 1919. And who made the decision to send up the troops from England? It was a guy called Winston Churchill. Exactly. Exactly. He is a favourite of the Brits, but let me tell you, he is a murdering bastard. That's the way to put Winston Churchill. When India was trying to fight for independence in the 1940s, he heard that there was a famine in India. So Churchill said to the cabinet, why has Gandhi not died then? He was very much opposed to Gandhi, even though Gandhi won independence for India with peaceful means. Also, remember what Churchill did in Dresden in Germany. He flattened the place to the ground. Estimates of the dead men, women and children were between 25,000 and 200,000, depending on who you want to believe. He was a murderer. We must remember that. Now, as I say, we're here at this statue of Walter Scott. He had to watch what he said in these days. Many folks say he was a unionist. He was not. You've just got to read some of his writings. You had to be careful what he said, because in these days, if you spoke up for freedom for Scotland, you were very quickly put in jail, deported, murdered. They would do anything to shut us up. It's not going to happen. We're going to rise again, and we're going to win freedom for Scotland. Now, I'm going to move on to the next monument, the monument over there. That is a monument to our national bard, Robbie Burns. The Scottish nationalist and an internationalist. Robbie Burns said, Caledonia, to thee I turn with swimming eyes. Where has the soul of freedom fled, buried with the mighty dead? Never forget the words of Robbie Burns. Always remember at school, they gave you a Burns book and they specifically picked out certain poems. It was hard, you know, trying to avoid all these Scottish nationalist poems, because just about every second poem Burns did, it was full of Scottish nationalism, patriotism. But the British brainwashing system handpicked the poems that they told you about Robert Burns. Another thing that Robert Burns said regarding this union, this unfair union, he said, farewell to all our Scottish fame, farewell our ancient glory, farewell even to the Scottish name, sae famed in martial story. Now Sark runs o'er the Solway Firth, and Tweed runs to the ocean, to mark where England's province stands, such a parcel of rogues in a nation, and there are plenty of them. This nation is full of traitors. We were once the greatest freedom fighters. This country was free for 1,000 years, up to 1707. Ever since then, many Scots in prominent positions have sold us down the river. People like Gordon Brown, like Tony Blair, they have made millions by betraying Scotland. We must hold them accountable for what they have done. We're now going to move on down into the merchant city. Anybody that's interested in going round the city to hear about the historical points can follow us around. Thank you. Next point of call. This is Virginia Place leading to Virginia Street. Now, this is a merchant city where all the tobacco merchants operated from. These people made a fortune from trading in tobacco from America and the Indies. The likes of Virginia Place, Virginia Street, that comes from the fact that the tobacco merchants were called Virginia Dons. That's what they were called, Virginia Dons, the tobacco merchants. Now, the tobacco merchants just didn't deal in tobacco. They also were very heavily involved in the slave trade. In the likes of Jamaica, they had lots of slaves. Many of these people in the tobacco industry, they had hundreds and hundreds of slaves taking sugar cane from Jamaica and America. Now, the thing is about that, these people made a fortune from the misery and suffering of these people, these slaves. They made their fortune in all these fancy buildings that were put up by the tobacco merchants. That's how they made their fortune. These were the Tories of the day. They treated these people, the slaves, as though they were worse than animals. We must remember all these people that died because of these horrendous tobacco merchants and slave traders. The likes of just round the corner there is Glasford Street. As to John Glasford, he was one of the top merchants in tobacco, and he had hundreds and hundreds of slaves. But you think even in Glasgow you've got Jamaica Street, that's to do with the slave trade. You've got the Kingston Bridge, obviously Kingston in Jamaica. This is all to do with these tobacco merchants and the money that they made using slaves for the trade of tobacco and sugarcane. So, as I say, this is why this is here, Virginia Place, Virginia Street. And I'm going to take you down now to a wee place down in Virginia Street where the tobacco merchants operated from. It's just a few yards down the road. I'm just going to move down there just now. Right folks, this is the next location here. As I say, this is all part of the merchant city. Here, the tobacco lords worked here from 1817 in this very building. This is where they made their money. This is where they dealt with all the paperwork that had to be done regarding their trade in tobacco and the slave trade and all the rest of it. As I said before, they were not nice people. They were the Tories of that particular time. They cared not for people that they employed, the slaves. It must be remembered that these people were very, very nasty. Now we're going to move on down to the bottom of the street there, where Marks and Spencer's building is, because it's a very important location where that Marks and Spencer's building is. So we'll move down there just now. In the city tour, the historical tour of the city centre in Glasgow. This building here, the Marks and Spencer's building, was originally a pub called the Black Bull Inn. And this is where Robbie Burns stayed in his visits to Glasgow. Many times Burns visited Glasgow when on this location was a Black Bull Inn. He used to visit one of his sweethearts here, a girl called Clorinda. And this is where it was, the Black Bull Inn. So there you go. There's even a marker on the wall here, a plaque. It says he visited Glasgow in June 1787, February and March 1788. And I'm quite sure a number of other occasions he visited right here. So there you go. A lot of folk probably have never realised, walking by in the city centre in Glasgow, that Robbie Burns stayed in this location when it was the Black Bull Inn. He actually stayed here, yeah. That was, before this was Marks and Spencer's, way back in 1700 odd, it was the Black Bull Inn that stayed there. It was a guest house, and Burns stayed here. As I say, that's where he met one of his many sweethearts, Clorinda. Okay, we're now going to move on to the next location. We're going to move to Glasgow's oldest pub, and that's just round the corner, and the pub is the Scotia Bar. It's the oldest bar in Glasgow. So we're going to move on there now. Next point in the location, this is Glasgow's oldest pub, the Scotia. It was established in 1792. Now, the thing with this bar is, it's reputed to be haunted. There are apparently 3 ghosts. One of them relates back to the 1970s. There was a man that worked in there who actually was found hanged. So apparently there are 3 ghosts in the premises of Glasgow's oldest pub. Now the street itself, Stockwell Street, was so called because there used to be a well halfway down this street, Stockwell Street. That's where it gets its name from. We're now going to move on, back up the way, onto the start of the Tron Gate, because there is a building there that is of significant importance. So it's straight back up the street. They're being renovated just now. But behind all this, there is a plaque on the wall to Bonnie Prince Charlie. In the retreat from Derby in 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie and his army reached Scotland on Christmas Day of 1745. And actually in Boxing Day, the day after Christmas Day, they arrived here in what was Shawfield Mansion. A fantastic mansion house used to sit at this location. And this is where Bonnie Prince Charlie stayed, as I say, from Boxing Day in 1745 until January of 1746. And while he was stationed there, his troops, some 6,000 men, were actually stationed down in Glasgow Green. While Bonnie Prince Charlie was here, somebody actually tried to shoot him. Obviously, Scotland was divided at that time as it is now. Some folk reckon it would have been a good idea if he was shot. It might have saved a lot of men, because an awful lot of people went to their death later that year in April in Culloden Moor. As we know, the Duke of Cumberland was a butcher and he spared no one. Men, women and children were all slaughtered at Culloden by the Duke of Cumberland. Just one of many people who have tried to destroy Scotland as a nation. But it's important to remember that people like Bonnie Prince Charlie stayed here in Glasgow. We've already spoke about the building down there where Robbie Burns actually stayed. History is all around us, even in the city centre in Glasgow. Bonnie Prince Charlie stayed here. You had Robbie Burns stayed in the next block where Marks and Spencer's were. It used to be a pub called the Black Bull Inn. So, as I say, history is all around us. We have got to find out more about our history, know who we are as Scots, and stand up for our rights. Scotland was a nation for 1,000 years before we would get involved in this unfair union. It's time to learn who we are as a nation. Now, along there is what is known as the Tron Gate. The Tron Gate gets its name from the fact the word Tron is a weighing scale. And what used to happen, the ships used to come into the Clyde and they used to weigh the goods and tax them. Of all the countries in the world, none are more taxed than those that are taxed by the British establishment. They are the greatest taxers on planet Earth. That's why there was an American Revolution. They put the tea in the Boston Harbour, sick of the high taxes of the British. Why do you think India revolted? They taxed the people to death. There was famine after famine. 1 billion Indians died in 200 years of Brit rule in India. 1 billion. It's disgusting. The high taxes of the Brits are responsible for more deaths on this planet than anybody else. We have got to get rid of the British taxes. We have got to stand up for Scotland. We have got people going to food banks. We've got people working in Poundland for no wages. It's disgusting. Meanwhile, we've got MPs with huge salaries. Not only the huge salaries, they have got unlimited amount in expenses. They don't even need to touch their wages, these MPs. They just put them away each month. And every month, everything is paid on expenses. They get up in the morning, they've got 40 quid to spend on a breakfast. They've got money to spend on their lunch if they want a new suit. Everything paid on expenses. We've got to get rid of this disgusting system of the Brits. While our people are suffering, these scumbag MPs are living it up. We have got to get rid of them. We're now going to move along now to the Gallowgate, and I have a few things to tell you about what happened there. So let's move on, folks. In this historical tour of the city centre of Glasgow, you may not know it, but an important battle took place here at this very spot called the Battle of the Gallowgate. Now, you may remember the song, The Bonnie Dundee, Claverhouse, The Bonnie Dundee. He was actually involved in a battle here, believe it or not. Claverhouse, Viscount Dundee. This was a time after Cromwell had been deposed and the Stuarts were restored to the throne. Bonnie Dundee was obviously for the Stuarts, and we had the Covenanters. So the Covenanters met Bonnie Dundee and his army here at the Battle of the Gallowgate, way back in June of 1679. And it was a fierce, bloody battle, and it moved on from here to other areas, right down as far as Tollcross. So, believe it or not, while many folk are walking around here, they've never realised that a major battle took place here, the Battle of the Gallowgate. Now, the Gallowgate is obviously gets its name, obviously, from the fact of the public hangings that used to take place. But the actual gallows were actually not here. They were actually further along the road at a place which is now Barrack Street in the Barrowland area, near the Barrowland Ballroom. That's exactly where the gallows were. But there was actually two places where public executions took place. Not just along where Barrack Street is. A lot of public executions took place in Glasgow Green. Lots of them took place there. Used to get up to 80,000 people would witness public executions. The last public execution that took place was actually on Glasgow Green. It was a doctor who was actually executed on Glasgow Green because he murdered his wife and his mother-in-law. It was Dr. Edward Pritchard. The last public hanging in Glasgow, which took place on Glasgow Green on the 20th July 1865. and it's noted in the history books 80,000 people attended a public execution. It's quite incredible how people would go and watch people being hanged. I don't think we would have the same feeling about that today, to actually witness somebody being hanged. But we've moved on a lot, I think, from that. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, as I say, that was 80,000 people attended the execution of Dr. Edward Pritchard, 20th of July, 1865. Now you can imagine if there's 80,000 people gathering for an execution, what used to happen was that all the street entertainers would turn up because they could make a bob or two when knowing that there's 80,000 people there. The pickpockets turned up as well. The prostitutes obviously turned up, 80,000 people there. So there was plenty of trade went on when all these public hangings were taking place. Now, believe it or not, see the likes of the death penalty. The death penalty for treason only stopped in 1998. So, lucky enough it has stopped, there are many others that may have been hanged, you know. So, anyway, now, moving on from the Gallowgate, we're at the start of the High Street there. Now, the High Street used to be called Plain Street. That was what it was called way back in the time of William Wallace. Now, at the top of the High Street, where the Rotten Row Hospital used to be, that is where Glasgow Castle was situated. Right at the top of the High Street, where the Rotten Row Hospital was. Way back in the time of William Wallace in 1297, that castle was occupied by 1,000 English troops. Wallace and his men, 300 men, went up the High Street. 300 Scots against 1,000 English. They went up the High Street and retook Glasgow Castle from the English. William Wallace fought the Battle of the Bell of the Brae way back in 1297. Even though we were outnumbered, we won out in the end. And this will be the case for independence. Even though we are outnumbered, we will win through in the end and win our freedom! We're now going to do the climb up the High Street, up to Provin's Lordship, the oldest house in Glasgow. Now, that battle I was telling you about, it wasn't a smooth macadam road away back in the days of Wallace. That was just a rocky slope. So when you think that 300 Scots went up a rocky slope and fought 1,000 English and got rid of them out of Glasgow Castle, it was some achievement. I can guarantee that when some of these people here walk up there, they'll be knackered. So, for 300 Scots to go up a rocky slope and retake Glasgow Castle in 1297, I think that was a fantastic feat. Let's move on now, folks. We're going to move up the High Street to the oldest house in Glasgow, Provin's Lordship. Location in the City Walk in Glasgow. Up here is where the Battle of the Bell of the Brae took place in 1297, when William Wallace and his men, 300 men, come up the High Street and faced an army of 1,000 Englishmen at Glasgow Castle. Glasgow Castle was situated where the old Rotten Row Hospital used to be. But even though there was only 300 Scots, they defeated an army of 1,000 Englishmen and retook Glasgow Castle. Now just across the road is Provin's Lordship. That is the oldest house in Glasgow. It is well worth a visit. And at the back of Provin's Lordship, there are some lovely gardens. It's well worth going in and having a look.